All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here with another episode of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. This is episode, Trevor, I think episode number 58 here. And wow, what a week it's been. I mean, I don't even have to really say anything other than the NFL is back. Trevor and I are recording this podcast right after the Monday Night Football game, and what a game it was, a thriller, maybe a game of the year candidate with the Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders.
100%.
And it just caps off a week of great football. Trevor, that's all I have to say about it. And we wanted to, dive right into this football week and, Trevor, talk about some football games. So, Trevor, I know you're excited to talk about your team. I know I'm excited to talk about mine. So let's get this started. What are some games you want to talk about from this past week?
I want to talk about the statement game of the week, and that is the Arizona Cardinals versus the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
And there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to actually, start with what Kyler Murray said about our defense. And I don't think a lot of people were paying attention to our defense to start this season, right? We're not the glitter and glamour of the the Los Angeles Rams. We're not the Washington football team, right? But this Cardinals defense is damn good. We might have one of the three best front sevens in the NFL, and we have an average secondary. But when you have, I would say, the
average
best pass rusher, the average secondary. I mean, you have a Pro Bowl safety and a good starting corner, and you have a couple of younger developing guys, but the front seven is elite. Chandler Jones is the best pass rusher in the NFL. I have stats to back that up. Between the years 2015 and 2020, so he didn't play all the 2020 season. So I guess 2015 through 2019, you could say, he led the NFL in sacks over those 5 years. He was better than Khalil Mack. He was better than Von Miller. Chandler Jones is the best pass rusher in the NFL, and he proved that again on Sunday. I also want to talk about this because Ryan and I got into this a little bit last year about Kyler Murray. I was telling you, Ryan, when Kyler Murray was healthy, he was a borderline top 3 MVP candidate, and he showed that again yesterday. When this guy is healthy and this guy can run the ball, he is an elite quarterback in the NFL, and he will be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL this season, pending his health. 5 total touchdowns, 320 total yards of offense. He made some spectacular plays on the run. There was the one where he's literally running in circles to avoid Tennessee defensive linemen. He actually ran 43 yards on that play just to complete an 18-yard pass. That just shows you the kind of electricity that he has. DeAndre Hopkins was DeAndre Hopkins. And the Arizona Cardinals put the NFL on notice. This is an elite offense. This is a very good defense with an elite front seven and the best pass rusher in the NFL. And Tennessee was supposed to be a good team. Tennessee was an 11-win team last year that went all in and traded for a guy like Julio Jones. And they were shut down. Derrick Henry had 8 yards of rushing in the first half. That is the Cardinals front seven. We just dominated this game. Simple as. I'm very high on my Cardinals. Outside of the first couple of possessions, I thought we played a really clean game, which was important. We were a team that tended to be a team that got into a lot of penalties, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. But outside of the first couple of possessions, it was a very clean game. It was a dominant performance against a playoff team, and the NFL should be put on notice. That was a statement performance for my Cardinals.
Trevor, week one overreactions, they tend to be a thing. And, I think that's kind of what it is here. And hey,
I think not an overreaction. It's what it's.
Let me tell you why, though. Let me tell you why. Okay. Trevor, last year, my Cleveland Browns went into Tennessee and we put up 28 unanswered. It was 28 zip after the first quarter. All right.
You won by 10.
It was a blowout game. It was never close. Put up 40 odd points on them. It was a 30-point game most of the game. They had garbage time points. Point being, if your offense is supposed to be good and it doesn't go in and shred that Tennessee defense, there's something wrong with it, okay?
They don't have just BS.
They don't have any secondary. They have Kevin Byard. That's it. They have nobody. They lost Adoree Jackson. They lost Malcolm Butler. They drafted the guy out of Virginia Tech who's an oft-injured corner who has a lot of potential, but he's a rookie, okay? They lost Bud Dupree, okay? They don't have a very good defense. It got worse, okay? It got worse from already being below average. It is bad now. What I'm saying is if you have arguably, right, an electric elite offense that the Cardinals would like to say they have.
It's not arguable.
I think they do. My point is
Good.
I expect you to go in there and do that. I expect you to go dominate
You
that
do
defense.
not come
Now
on.
what I
You do
now what
not
I
expect
no,
the team to drop
now
40
what
in three
now what I did
quarters.
not expect was the Tennessee offense to look so bad. The Cardinals front seven is their strength. We all knew this going into the season, and that's how it played out on Sunday. What we didn't expect is the Tennessee offense to decide to run the ball the entire first half to no avail and not throw it to arguably two top 10 receivers in football. It was one of the dumbest game plans I've ever seen. Julio looked out of sync with Ryan Tannehill. Chandler Jones was an absolute animal. Defensive player of the week. This might have been the best week out of any defensive end they'll have all season. Unbelievable game. I mean, there's nothing else to say about that. JJ Watt looked nice, had some really nice plays, high motor, high effort as always. He looked really nice. I remember him, he had some really nice tackles in the run game on Sunday. I expected this out of the Arizona offense. The Titans were really disappointing me, though. Really, really disappointing. Sloppy play. They looked like the team traveling on Sunday, Trevor. They looked like the team that was caught 3 hours ahead in the wrong time zone. The Cardinals looked like the team that was, fresh and ready to go. And it surprised me. But it was a good win. I wouldn't say put the NFL on notice because Tennessee, I think it was more Tennessee playing poorly on the offensive side rather than the Cardinals just playing an amazing defensive game. And their offense was, again, elite, but I expect them to be elite in most games this year.
Fair point. I agree with most of what you said. I do think you're trying to discount the win and discount the offense because Tennessee is a bad defense.
I'm
but
still trying
look,
to overreact.
Fair enough. That's a fair point. All right. I will say this.
Yeah.
One small thing before we move on. Isaiah Simmons looked really good yesterday. I'm very glad that he had a good game. He had a very disappointing rookie year. But for me, it was more about him learning one position. In college, he was kind of playing everywhere. Clemson had him at the linebacker position, at the safety position, even had him at, I think, nickel corner at one point. And he had to kind of learn how to play inside linebacker last year. And he's had an off season now to develop and get stronger and get, his body NFL ready. And he had a really good game. 9 tackles, had an interception. I thought he was great in the run game against Derrick Henry, as was Zaven Collins, as was JJ Watt, as was our entire defensive front seven. So that was great to see. I do think it put the NFL on notice a little bit just because the way we won the game. It was a dominating win against a team that people were saying would be a contender in the AFC. I mean, when they trade for a guy like Julio Jones, they're building off an 11-win season last year. They already have the best running back, arguably, in the NFL. They already have another top 10 receiver. I get they have a bad defense, but that wasn't discounting or that wasn't persuading people against, picking them to go far this year. So for me, I agree with you completely that Tennessee did not look ready to play. They didn't play any of their key starters in the preseason, and it showed. Their timing was horrible. Julio and Tannehill looked out of sync. Their offensive line was horrible. Taylor Lewan even tweeted after the game, thanks for kicking my ass, Chandler Jones. I'll get better. Kind of a weird thing to tweet, but Chandler Jones did kick his ass among other guys on that D-line. And I don't know. It was a dominating win. Ryan's right. Maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. But I will say Chandler Jones is going to be a problem, and I think he could win Defensive Player of the Year. He is an elite pass rusher. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say on this. You've covered it pretty well. I'm not going to touch on this Kyler subject because we've really talked about it a lot.
He will be in the running for MVP if he's healthy.
I'll save it for future weeks. There's positives and negatives to Kyler. They'll come out in future weeks in both sides. We saw a lot of positives on Sunday. I'll talk about this in future weeks. I did want to point out Rondale Moore. I think he's going to be really good. I think especially after this season, when you have less crowded receiver room, hopefully Christian Kirk leaves off that rookie contract. AJ Green's on a 1-year deal. He did look good, but I think Rondale Moore is going to be better. I like what I saw. He's very electric, very elusive. A guy you can use in wide receiver screens, guy you can use as a possession receiver, kind of a slot guy over the middle, or a guy that can go on deep routes. He can really do it all. And he looked really nice. I do want to say a lot of the young, smaller receivers in this draft, Trevor, looked really good on Sunday. You got Rondale Moore, Devontae Smith's a small guy. He played really well. Jalen Waddle, small guy. He played really well. A lot of these smaller receivers had really nice games in their debuts. So that was cool to see.
One final thing, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Tennessee is missing their offense. Tennessee is missing Arthur Smith because that game plan was horrible. by the offensive coordinator on Sunday. Let's just keep running the ball up the middle when we're down 24-6. And then, you know, we'll be in 2nd and 12, and then we'll maybe run it again, get back to 3rd and 10, and then throw it. And I agree with you. The game plan was horrible. There was no adjustment. There was no life from Tennessee. It was a dominating win by my Cardinals. We'll move on from there.
Yeah, it was really weird. They were at home too. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, moving on. We're going to talk about my team now. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Trevor, I think before Monday night, Trevor, I thought this was game of the week. This was a really, really good game, and I might be a little biased because I am a Cleveland fan. But Trevor, wouldn't you agree? This is one of the best games of the week. I think that this was a lot of fun to watch. The Browns, we lost by 4, 33-29. Really a heartbreaking loss, Trevor. You know, it reminds me of how we were so close to beating them in the AFC playoffs in the divisional round last year. It's just a tough loss. And I have a couple takeaways from this game. First, our offensive line's the best in football. It did what it wanted when it wanted, particularly in the run game. I mean, Trevor, did you see Nick Chubb's second touchdown? I mean, you could have run through that hole. I mean, he had 15 yards on both sides of him to score. I mean, it was insane. So, you know, I loved that, especially because our left tackle went down with a minor injury. Luckily, it's only day-to-day, Jedrick Wills. But he was out for the game, you know, especially that, we lost him. Still had a really good O-line, really good overall. Also, I thought Baker looked really nice. The stat line's not going to show it. He didn't have touchdowns. We had all rushing touchdowns. But, you know, he looked really good. A lot of laser sharp throws. He was dotting it all over the field throughout this game. Really controlled the pace of the game in the first half. And I really liked that. Just one unfortunate mistake at the end with, he got hit from behind, tried to throw it out of bounds, couldn't make it out of bounds. So, the stat line didn't really look like he played that well. No touchdowns, 1 pick, 320 yards, but he really did throw the ball very well. And I'm sure Trevor, can attest. He had some nice throws on Sunday, and he really played confidently. Didn't make many bad throws, there wasn't much to complain about overall. And I also want to say Kevin Stefanski coached a great game. He's one of the best offensive minds in football, one of the best coaches in football. So composed. The composure the team plays with, the lack of penalties. I just love all that. But we lost the turnover battle. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of our generation, one of the best of all time. And it's just so hard to stop that with a new defense, some lucky plays. Oh, it's just tough. It was just a tough game. Congrats to the Chiefs, but I was encouraged by what I saw by my Browns, and I'm even more confident in us, winning the division, winning the AFC North, and going on a big winning streak these next few weeks. Because schedule gets a lot easier. But yeah, I was encouraged by what I saw, but close, but not yet there.
I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I'll talk about Baker a little bit later on in the podcast. Okay. I have some criticisms of him, but he did play for the most part a good game yesterday. Yeah. I thought, he was thrown to a lot of wide open guys, and I thought Stefanski had a great game plan. And, throwing behind that offensive line, you can camp there for a weekend and have enough time to throw the ball. So it's certainly a luxury what he has. And he looked pretty good. But again, I will save some of my criticisms for him later. I don't know. I feel like this was a preview of the AFC Championship game. I really do feel like these are the two best teams in the AFC. I think there's an argument for Buffalo, but they didn't look very good yesterday.
Really bad, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I think Buffalo looked really bad. Again, Tennessee was another one of those dark horse teams that people thought could go deep. They looked horrible. Baltimore has some injury issues. I think that's going to hold them back. But Baltimore, again, also lost tonight. Week 1 is always fluky. But yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. This was a great game. I thought it was two unbelievable offenses, and it kind of showcased that in the first half. I feel like the first 5 possessions of the game were all touchdowns. I think it was, they were all scores. KC kicked a field goal on one, but the first 5 possessions by both teams were all scores. I think both teams only punted once the entire game. Offensive masterpiece. I agree with you about Patrick Mahomes. He's just something special. Some of those throwing angles he has where he can sidearm it. It's just so, his arm talent is once in a lifetime, not even generation. It's once in a 50-year type thing. I think his arm talent is just unbelievable. He was fantastic yesterday. I have a criticism though about the Browns. I thought their defense was poor. And again, I know it's Kansas City, but If you're looking at
I'll
this
let you go.
Kansas City offense, who can beat you? They have two real weapons on this offense: Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
So easy to cover.
The Browns did a horrible job covering both of them. Kelce, at some point, you have to double him. I just feel like it was the same thing with Darren Waller tonight. I just feel like at some point you have to force someone else to beat you. And Tyreek Hill had the big game. He had 11 catches. I got their
200 yards.
Tyreek Hill's weird because he's so fast. But again, it's those two guys. Force Clyde Edwards-Helaire to beat you on the ground. Force Mecole Hardman to do something.
Two Hall of Famers.
Their whole offense is Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Cleveland knows, and they had no answer for it either way. I get it's hard, but at some point you have to figure out a way to at least, slow him down. I don't think Tyreek Hill should be single covered ever. I think Tyreek Hill should either be doubled or there, should be a zone.
That's what we did.
And yeah, you guys did run a lot of zone, but it's hard. They are tough matchups, but for me, you know what Kansas City's going to do. They don't run the ball well. I mean, your D-line is great.
Our D-line's,
your D-line's great, but it's Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And I feel like if you take away one of them, you're in a great spot. And Cleveland did neither yesterday. I get it's hard, but they're professional football players. They should have been able to at least game plan to try and slow one of them down. But go ahead.
Yeah. Here's what I want to say about that is, like, first of all, they have their offense has 3 Hall of Famers on it. Like, it's just so, like, that's just crazy. But look, you're right. They have 2 weapons. Here's the problem, though. Cleveland had 6 new defensive starters in week 1. That's over half the defense. Right. So right there, it's tough. It's a new defense. A lot of talented guys have gone on that defense. But when you have 6 new guys, it's a tough draw to get KC week 1. It's a tough draw.
Totally agree.
So there's that. Second, Clowney and Garrett were getting around. They were beating the tackles nearly every play.
They were playing well.
Almost every other quarterback, Trevor, would have been sacked multiple times throughout that game. Mahomes is one of the best pocket awareness out of all quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, he has some of the best pocket awareness. He's just so good. He's so nifty. He can get away. He was running a lot. He was scrambling a lot out to his right. A lot of improvised throws. A lot of he ran the ball a few times, multiple times. So he was getting away from Clowney and Garrett a lot of the game, but they were getting to the quarterback. So, like, they played well, and I don't know. Like, Tyreek was getting doubled the entire game. It wasn't working because he'll go deep one play on a deep cross. The next play, he'll start going on the deep cross and stop in the middle of the field. You don't know if he's going to go deep or go short, and it's just so hard to defend. It's so difficult. And Mahomes will motion one of them. Romo always points this out. Whichever one, he sees the matchup. He sees who Kelce is lined up with when he motions them. He sees who Tyreek's matched up with when he motions them. If he sees that they're in, coverage with a guy that, he thinks can split the matchup, he's going to throw to him. He already knows who's going to throw to before the play starts. So it's just so hard to defend, Trevor. I mean, we held them to 10 points in the first half. I mean, the Chiefs had 10 points in the first half. Like, let's not act like they were dominating, early. 10 points in the first half is
I think
that's
that's
more
of a testament to your offense, but I agree.
Sure, they kept them off the field a lot of the time in the first half. But, it was a testament to both. I don't know. I expected this. I mean, they're an elite. They're the best offense in football. We're a new defense with 6 new guys. I expected something like that. I knew we'd have to score a lot. Now, if we go out the next few weeks against these bad teams like the Texans and struggle defensively, then there will be a problem. But I'm not too worried about it right away. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, I think the defense will step up in future weeks. The front seven's good, especially the D-line, and the secondary is much improved. So I agree it was a struggle this week, but, every team's going to struggle against Kansas City.
Fair enough. I agree with you. It was still an excellent football game. Yep. And no one should really dog the Browns for that loss because the Browns really could have won that game. And I think they outplayed Kansas City for the most part. But
yeah,
with that being said, I will move on to the other game I wanted to talk about this week. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about the Dolphins and the Patriots for a multitude of reasons. Mm-hmm. One, I'll start with Mac Jones. I was very impressed with what I saw from him yesterday. I thought he did a great job taking what the defense was giving him. There wasn't a ton of explosive plays, but I thought he did a very good job finding the open guy, taking the 6-yard play. It was an excellent, he was an excellent game manager. He didn't make any mistakes. The New England offense, it's tough. It's very limited just because they don't have a very good wide receiving core. It's probably near the bottom in the NFL, if I had to be honest.
Yeah.
But I thought Mac Jones did a terrific job in his first start. Honestly, the one mistake of the game was not his fault. It was a fumble by one of the running backs
Damien
down
Harris.
inside the 10-yard line. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that fumble doesn't happen, I would say New England wins. So kudos to Mac Jones. I was not very high on him in the draft. I didn't like him, but he looked very good yesterday. I want to talk about the Dolphins, and I'm just concerned about Tua. I just don't like what I'm seeing. And maybe it's because there was a lot of, I think there was a lot of hype around him. I personally hyped him up a lot. I really liked him coming out of the draft. But to me, Tua just doesn't look, I don't know. He doesn't look like an elite franchise quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback, but he's not great. I get it. He's only in his second year. He's only started maybe 9 or 10 football games. So he has a long career ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the big improvement that I thought I would see from year 1 to year 2. He also made a really dumb interception in the fourth quarter that could have costed them the game. I wasn't overly impressed. I mean, what was that?
I mean, it was off his receiver's hands.
It was not a good decision. He threw.
It wasn't a good decision.
Come on, Ryan.
It hit the ball.
All right.
Anyway.
He threw the ball up into traffic. It was a horrible decision. And it got picked off. And to me, Tua, I don't know. I'm a little concerned about him. Miami's defense is really good, but they were lucky to win that game yesterday. And I don't know. Tua didn't look all that impressive to me. That's why I wanted to talk about this game. I think Miami is going to be fine. New England is a well-coached team. They know how to take away your best option. That's what they're known for.
Yep.
But again, I don't know. I felt like Mac Jones on a worse team with worse weapons looked better than Tua, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So first, I'll just talk about the two quarterbacks here. I'm not gonna, talk about a ton of stuff. Mac Jones. Look, I was impressed. I said the guy would be good coming out of the draft, Trevor. I said he was going to be good. A lot of people have doubted him, and it's been only one game, but he's been exactly what I thought he'd be coming out. Look, the guy's an accurate passer. He makes the right decision at the right time, and he's no scrub. Look, I get he played at Alabama. I get he had all the talent in the world. I get that. But to be the quarterback at Alabama, you have to have some level of talent. And we see that with Mac Jones. I mean, the guy, didn't turn the ball over against a, arguably top 10 Dolphins defense, definitely above average. I mean, they're a good defense, really solid defense, coached by Brian Flores. He's a defensive-minded guy. They were a good defense. He didn't turn the ball over once, completed most of his passes. I want to say over 60, 65%, somewhere around there. He completed most of his passes, and he doesn't have the best receiving core, still played well. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled in the first quarter. Damien Harris fumbled in the final drive. 2 killers by his running backs. That's not what you'd expect, especially from a guy like Damien Harris, a second-year player. He's been there before. So that was kind of a killer, but, I liked what I saw. I liked what I saw. He was a really, he didn't look like he was afraid. He didn't, shy away from pressure. He took multiple hits. He stood in and made the throw. And a lot of rookie quarterbacks, they'll take a step back when they see the pressure coming at them. They'll fall away. Mm-hmm. He didn't. He stood in there and took the hit, made the throw. That's what I loved. Tua, I don't agree with you. I think that, look, he was taken early. I know. He's supposed to be electric. Let's not forget, though, Preston Williams was out. Will Fuller was out. Okay, he had Waddle and Parker, who Parker's Parker's okay. But he had Jalen Waddle, who did most of the damage for him. And I just want here's the thing with Tua. I was most worried about him making explosive plays, his ability to do that. He threw 2 balls. He completed 2 passes over 30 yards to Jalen Waddle through the air, by the way, to Jalen Waddle and Devontae Parker. This wasn't like a screen pass that went for 30 yards, right? He threw the ball over 30 yards to both these guys for a completion over 30 yards each. That was encouraging to me. That's what I like to see. Two balls that were, a tough throws to make down the field, pretty tight coverage on both these throws, and he made good throws. So I want to see more of that from Tua. I'm kind of on the fence about him. I think he could still be good. I don't think he'll end up being elite, but it doesn't need to be for Miami to be a playoff team, to be a really talented team. They have a good all-around team. He just needs to be, good. Like, not like he's comparable to Matthew Stafford, but I mean, like, in terms of like talent level, you know what I'm saying? A solid quarterback, an above average quarterback, a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, not an elite quarterback. That's what I think Tua can become. That's what I think he can be, especially if he uses his legs more. Don't be afraid to use your legs. He's a running quarterback. Use your legs. That's what you're good at. He had a rushing touchdown on Sunday, so do more of that. But, I don't think that he was bad by any stretch. New England's a tough place to play, tough defense. I was okay with how he played.
Fair enough. I agree with you. I maybe I'm expecting too much of him. I expected him to have.
That might be fair.
I expected him to outplay Mac Jones, and I felt like Mac Jones outplayed him. And maybe that's just more of a credit to Mac Jones, not as much of a knock on Tua. What I didn't like is I didn't like the big mistake he made at the end. I felt like that was a very, telling play of Tua's development. But Ryan doesn't seem to think it was that bad of a play. So that's besides the point. We'll agree to disagree. Ryan, I know you have one more game you wanted to talk about, so take it away.
Yeah, I do. I have one more game I want to talk about. And, it was the first game of the season. And this is a fun game, Trevor. Look, like I want to talk about it because I feel like, Dallas, this is a team that it seems to always happen for them, Trevor. They always seem to be so close. Their offense is great. They always seem to have the win in their grasp, and then it slips away at the end. And that's exactly what happened on Thursday night. Amari Cooper looks sensational. Trevor, there were people online, right, early in the game who were saying Dak looks hurt. Dak looks like, his shoulders bothering him.
I did not
what
get that at
are
all.
they saying? It makes no sense. I don't like when people do this. He ended up, throwing Trevor for over 350 yards, maybe 400 yards, and like 3 or 4 touchdowns. Hello? The guy completed like 70% of his passes against an elite defense. What are you talking about? He looks not 100%. He underthrows one ball on a comeback route. Like it's on the far side of the field, a tough throw to make. People don't realize as non-NFL players, these are tough throws to make across the entire field. This is a far throw to make, and so sometimes you're going to come up a little short on those. Baker had one of those against the Chiefs. It's going to happen to quarterbacks. Doesn't mean he's hurt. So I thought that was ridiculous. I'm glad he put those rumors to bed by playing really well, making a lot of really tough throws, really good throws. And I think that Dallas is going to win the NFC East, Trevor. It's them or, I don't know. I think they win the NFC East. Like their offense is so elite and their defense, I think will be good enough. I think that this game showed that as long as Dak's healthy, I think they come out of the NFC East. So I was encouraged overall by what I saw from them. It was a lot closer than I thought it would be. And then the Buccaneers, same old, same old. The one thing I did want to point out is there were some players on that team, particularly Antonio Brown, who, came out of the woodwork, played like their vintage selves. AB and Rob Gronkowski both played fantastically, for the Bucs in this first game. And I would love to see that because, just seeing like the 32, 33-year-olds coming out and playing really well like they used to back in the day was fun to watch. And yeah, this is a Super Bowl team. I didn't have much else to say about them. I just wanted to say that I think the Cowboys are the NFC East favorites after this game.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I agree with you that Dallas will win the NFC East. And I think this game is actually very encouraging for Cowboys fans. I thought Dak Prescott looked great.
Yeah.
What I don't like is people are going to be like, well, he was dinking and dacking. He threw a lot of short passes. Well, Tampa Bay was blitzing him the whole game, and they have an elite defensive line, and they're able to get to the quarterback. So what do you want him to do? Wait for 10 seconds and then try and throw a deep ball? No. He was going to make the underneath play where the guys were wide open. He threw for 400 yards. I don't know what more you want from him. He threw for 3 touchdowns, and Dallas abandoned the run because of that front seven, how good Tampa Bay's front seven is. So, yeah, those stupid injury thing. Oh, Dak doesn't look healthy. Dak doesn't – I don't know what that was about. I was like, what? Like, he threw the ball 60 times. I think his shoulder is fine, but that's besides the point. Yeah. I think the bigger story of this game is just not the bigger story, but another big story of this game was Tom Brady. He doesn't age. I don't know what it is. I don't know what he's eating, drinking, doing, but he doesn't age. He looked really good yesterday. He threw 2 interceptions, but neither of them were his fault, in my opinion. He led the game-winning drive right at the end of the game, and it was almost like one of those things where it's like Dallas left too much time. They're going to lose this game. The minute they go up 29-28 with 1:20 left. you're thinking to yourself, this game is still Tampa Bay's to lose just because Tom Brady is so clutch, the clutch quarterback of all time. He was fantastic. Dak Prescott was fantastic. The Tampa Bay does have a couple of issues. One, their secondary is a bit of a problem, if you ask me. Their front seven is so good, but their secondary needs to pick it up a little bit. I didn't like what I saw from them last night. Number two, they are very one-dimensional. They have no running game. Fournette and Ronald Jones both fumbled the football once in this football game. I'm sure that drove Bruce Arians crazy. I'm sure it drove their OC crazy. You got to go to Giovanni Bernard now to rely on, not to fumble the ball.
Yeah.
So they have a real issue at the running back position. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette both don't seem to want to start. They're both playing so bad that they're giving the other person an edge in who's going to get the starting load. This was another fantastic football game. I feel like we're saying that about a lot of these games, other than my Cardinals, blow out, but that's besides the point. This was a fantastic game. Dak Prescott looked great. Amari Cooper, who shout out to me, I said he would have a big game and a big year in fantasy. He's off to a huge start with 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb looked really good. There would be some question marks fantasy-wise about would they be able to work together. They clearly can. I think the biggest question mark with Dallas is their defense isn't great.
Yeah.
And is Ezekiel Elliott ever going to be the same? It sucks for running backs because their prime is so short.
Especially
running backs running backs, especially guys who carry a heavy load, those lead backs.
Yes.
They have 2 or 3 years where they're really good. And then there's a huge drop off and it's time to move on. And I feel really bad because running backs are a very important position. They're a beat up position. But Zeke does not look the same. He was locked up all night long. Maybe that's just because Tampa Bay has an elite front seven, but he didn't look great. Great game. Not much else to say. Both these teams will be in the playoffs. Dallas will win the NFC East. Ryan's right about that.
Can I make one note before we move on from these games here? I just want to say, to further your Zeke point, which I really like, will he ever be the same? I don't know. The key thing to me, Trevor, is the carries. I showed this to Trevor and a few other friends earlier in the week. Ezekiel Elliott, if you include college, and carries in college, Ezekiel Elliott has 2,300 carries, Trevor, in college and his pro career. That is 500 carries more than the second most running back, Derrick Henry, at about 1,800. 500 more carries. That's an insane number, Trevor. That's crazy. And so, Zeke is 25, 26. He's still pretty young. But, age might not be a factor here. It might be just the amount of times Zeke's gotten the ball, in his career, both in college and the pros. It's a factor. If you look at guys like Alvin Kamara, he has 1,200 touches if you include college and the pros. 1,300, something like that, 12 or 1,300. So much less, almost half as much. Nick Chubb, 1,500. Even Aaron Jones, I think, is about 1,400. All these guys, a lot less touches than a guy like Zeke. So it really is a question mark. Will Zeke be the same? And it might be an overreaction because they didn't really run the ball very much. But I think it's a fair question because he's been running to the ground his entire career. College and in Dallas. I mean, he's gotten the vast majority of the snaps and the workload. So I really like that you brought that up because I think that it's definitely a question, and we'll see if he can, be the same Ezekiel Elliott this year as he has in the past.
And I hate Cowboys fans, Ryan, but I will say they should be very encouraged by this performance. I mean, they ran more plays. They controlled the clock. They forced 4 turnovers. The only reason that's a concern is you force 4 turnovers and you still give up 31 points. That's a bit of a concern if you ask me. More yards, control the possession, more first downs, more plays. There's a lot to like. Makes you think, how'd they lose the game? I don't know. Tom Brady's just that good. But again, this was a fantastic opening night game. Both these teams will be in the playoffs. They will both run into my Cardinals and lose, but we'll move on from there.
Yep, we will. Okay, we're going to move on from there, Trevor. It was good talking about these games, but it is time to talk about some players, some players we thought played well or wanted to shout out, talk about a little bit, or played poorly and wanted to criticize a little bit. So, Trevor, I was going to start off just by talking about a quick guy, and it's a guy who was just in the game we were talking about, Antonio Brown. Look, I said it, off the air before. I want to say it on the air now. I think Antonio Brown's going to come back as vintage AB this year. I think that Tom Brady doesn't age. I think they're, really good friends. AB stayed at his house back when they were in New England. And so they're clearly close. AB finally has these off the field distractions gone. His knee is finally healed. He had surgery in the offseason. It was bothering him all year last year. He's finally healthy, and it showed on Thursday. He looked sensational, Trevor. He was the best receiver on that team on Thursday night. In my opinion, at least, looked electric, was burning corners left and right, went for 120 and a touchdown. And, look out for him this year, Trevor. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a top 20, top 15 receiver in fantasy, and wouldn't be surprised, Trevor, if he had the most receiving yards or most receiving touchdowns on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season.
I agree with you. Again, with Antonio Brown, it's never been a question of physically, can you play receiver?
Yeah.
Right. It's never been a question of, is this guy talented enough to catch footballs? He, in his prime, Ryan and I know this, in his prime, this guy was clearly the best receiver in the NFL. It's just a matter of, is his head screwed on straight? And for right now, it seems like it is. He hasn't had any issues in a long time. For now, it's always a question with him. He seems to be very, focused on football, focused on bettering himself. And I'm happy for him because I wrote him off. I said this guy should not play football anymore. I just thought he had too many mental issues. But again, just give Tom Brady a ton of credit. It just shows Tom Brady, kind of stuck his neck out for this guy. He kind of got him another chance. He brought him in. And now Antonio Brown might flourish. As Ryan said, Antonio Brown might have a really good, kind of like second part of his career while Tom Brady is still the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This guy's electric. He's a big play waiting to happen. He averaged 25 yards of reception in Thursday night's game. He caught a touchdown. He was very efficient. And Ryan's right. I think he will lead the Tampa Bay receiving corps in some stat. It might not be receptions, just because Chris Godwin seems to get a lot more of Brady's targets, and Rob Gronkowski will get a lot of targets in the red zone. But this guy could lead the team in receiving yards. He is a big play waiting to happen. As I said, he is an elite pass catcher.
Yes, he is.
He's the best in the NFL. I mean, at least he was the best in the NFL at one point.
For years.
When he wasn't being a knucklehead. So I'm happy for him. He seems to be in a lot better place mentally right now. And physically, he seems to be in great shape.
Yes.
And you talk about guys like Ezekiel Elliott who have just been beaten up and ran. Antonio Brown's a guy that, he kind of had like a year or two off to just maybe get his body right. With all the mental problems he was having, he was kind of resting his body at the same time because nobody wanted to sign him. He looks fresh, and he might have a really good next, few years to kind of, close out his career. But again, he looked great on Thursday. So you're right.
Yeah, no, yes, he did. That's why I wanted to shout him out. So, maybe he'll have a great year. I think he definitely is capable, future Hall of Famer. So, Trevor, is there a player that you wanted to talk about? I know you said you wanted to talk about Baker. I don't know if you want to have another player you want to talk about first, but it's kind of.
No, I'm going to talk about Baker.
Okay. What are your criticisms?
Ryan touched on it. Ryan and I both touched on it. I said earlier in the podcast that I would save some. Here are my criticisms of Baker, and this is why he is.
I know what you're going to say, and it's okay. Go ahead.
He's not an elite quarterback. You can win a Super Bowl with him, but there's a difference. Baker Mayfield needs the system. He needs the perfect coach. He needs the line. He needs the all-pro running backs. He needs the play design. And it was all well and good in the first half. He looked great in the first half. But in the fourth quarter, when things start to tighten up, when you need to go win the game against a Kansas City defense, is good. But Ryan talked about how much that offensive line was bullying them, and he was right.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield came up short, and I get he was trying to throw the ball away, but he made a really bad play on the interception. And
he
was trying to throw the ball away. I get that, but in that situation, it's his fault. He threw the ball. He's the quarterback. Wow. He deserves the blame for that play. I mean, if it was Patrick Mahomes, I would be saying the same thing. If it was anybody, I'd be saying the same thing. So for me, my issue with Baker is, and maybe this will haunt the Browns. I could be overreacting, but can this guy win you a game when, the system doesn't allow you to just walk right through, basically is what I'm trying to say. When the system breaks down, when the game plan, turns into, Baker, we need you to make a throw. We need you to lead a drive. We need you to go win us this football game. Can Baker Mayfield do it? I don't know if he can. I think he needs the system. I think he needs the lead. I think he needs the running backs. Nick Chubb averaged 10 yards a carry in the fourth quarter last year. Do you know how much pressure that takes off of Baker Mayfield when you can hand the ball off to Nick Chubb and he will average a first down every time he touches the ball? I just think if we're going to pay this guy a lot of money, we really need to be careful. And Ryan's going to be like, well, Ryan's counter argument is going to be, what do you want from him? Why are the expectations so high on Baker Mayfield?
Really?
And I'll tell you why. Baker Mayfield is a Heisman winner. He is the number one overall pick in the draft. My expectations should be higher for Baker Mayfield. He is not some third-round quarterback that, could or could not be good. Dak Prescott is a fourth-round quarterback. Dak Prescott had to throw the ball 60 times. Dak Prescott did not have a system to beat Tampa Bay. You know what Dallas's system was? Dak, you need to throw the ball as many times to win us this football game. And he did it. He didn't do it, but he did it because he gave them the lead, but then their defense let it go because Brady's that good. Tom Brady's the same thing. Had to throw the ball 50 times to go win them that football game.
All right.
What I'm saying is Baker, for me, he played a good game on Sunday, but this is not a guy that you can rely on to go win you a football game when the system, when there's no system. That's what I'm trying to say. Go ahead, Ryan.
Trevor, it sounds like you're faulting Baker Mayfield for having a balanced team. That's what it seems like to me. You're saying,
I'm not
Dallas,
faulting him.
Dallas had to go pass heavy. Tampa Bay had the best run defense in football. Tampa Bay, Ronald Jones and Fournette couldn't run the football without fumbling or turning the ball over. They had a terrible run game on Thursday night. So Brady had to throw. Baker Mayfield is capable of leading this offense to game-winning drives, and he's done it before. He did it multiple times last year. He did it multiple times in his rookie year, and he even did it once or twice in his second season with Freddie Kitchens as his coach. So, I don't know, in my opinion, I don't think there's a question if he can lead the team on game-winning drives. I don't blame him for that pick at the end. I would blame him if he was trying to complete the pass, okay? But because he was trying to throw it out of bounds, I was okay with it. He got hit from behind, couldn't see the guy. He had even stepped up into the pocket. He tried to get away. He got hit from behind. That's not on him. He did make a bad miss against David Njoku on third down on the previous drive. He was short on a comeback route, or not really a comeback route. It was more of an improvisation. Njoku's just coming back to the ball, and Baker was on the run. That was a misfire. But, he doesn't make very many mistakes. Trevor, he had 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions last year. First-year head coach, 11-5. He doesn't make mistakes. And he had to unlearn all of the bad things, Trevor. He had 4 coaches in 3 years. This is his first year with a coach, the same coach for his second season. Trevor, you talked about how, you have high expectations for Baker. That's fair. I think he should have expectations. You should expect this guy, number 1 overall, Heisman winner. He wants over $200 million. You got to be a top 10 quarterback. You got to go out there and perform like one of the best, top 12. Got to go perform like one of the best. And, I liked what I saw on Sunday. I think that there's still another step he can take. I agree with you. There's a tiny bit. But here's the thing, Trevor. The Browns offense just makes it look so easy. It's such a formula, because Kevin Stefanski.
In the first half, I would agree.
Kevin Stefanski knows what Baker's good at. He knows how to make him look good, make it look easy. Baker's very good at rolling out of the pocket, having a tight end leak out underneath, have a receiver over top, have 2 options for him, right? That's how it always goes. That's how it always goes in the first half. And you're right. You're going to say when the game plan broke down, when he needed to just go win the game, we couldn't do it. But I would personally chalk that up to more, just a great play by the defense at the end there with the pick. Okay. Just another good play by the defense. Honestly, Anthony Schwartz, Trevor, remember we were talking about this off the air. Baker threw a great ball to Anthony Schwartz. We thought he dropped the ball. I thought he dropped the ball. We were talking about this. It was in the early fourth quarter. And, I went back and looked at the replay, looked back at that play. The corner actually punched the ball out of his hands. He ripped the ball out. Schwartz had caught the ball. So, I don't know. I think that it's just a byproduct of some good defensive plays, crowd momentum, a lot of stuff. Look, if it became a big theme, if Baker struggled continually to drive down the field and win games, I would agree with you. I just don't think it's a big, a common theme. I don't think Baker continually fails to deliver. The one that stands out to me is last year against Cincinnati, threw a game-winning pass with 15 seconds left, 35-yard touchdown to Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's the one that easily stands out to me. I'm sure I could point to others. I know there's a Buffalo game-winning drive in there. Point being, he's done it before. Kansas City, it's a tough matchup, tough game. I will agree with you on the one thing of he needs to be elite, though, because he was the number one pick. He's got to step up, become a top 12 or 10 quarterback because he was paid. He's going to be paid like it, and he was drafted like it. So I do agree with you in that respect.
That's fair. And I think we can agree on this. But this is my counterpoint. And I know that you're defending Baker, but
yeah,
is this guy more Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo? Because they got paid. They've been to a Super Bowl. Is he a Jared Goff or a Jimmy Garoppolo, or is he better than that?
Yes, he's better.
I would say, what has he done to prove that? But he has a long career ahead of him. I'm sure he has time to prove that. Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo went to a Super Bowl. I'd say they've been in more stable systems. I would totally agree.
Well, I'd just say that Jimmy G also can't throw, down the field. Like he just can't throw down the field. Baker slings it down the field. Like I'd say that the difference between them isn't necessarily like
sorry about that.
Straight up production. I would say it's their ability. Baker, there's nothing he can't do with his arm. Jimmy can't throw down the field consistently. Can't even throw over the middle consistently. Jared also can't throw down the field consistently. Both of these guys have a lot of limitations. You saw it with McVay, limited Goff to a lot of, short passes. Look at Stafford last night, slinging it. McVay finally can do what he wants. These guys have limits. Baker just has certain strengths that he can play around, but he can throw anywhere on the field with accuracy. Like he has the number one pick talent. It's just, it's a run heavy offense, Trevor. Use the strengths. 2 all-pro running backs, the best offensive line in football. You utilize your strengths and make your quarterback take some of the pressure off of him while you can. Do what he's best at. I know you want to see a little more from him, though. I know you want to see a little more from him.
I just think the Baker defenders don't want to acknowledge. The Baker defenders love to point out his improvement, his efficiency, some of his game-winning drives against Cincinnati, whatever.
But there's more than that.
What they don't point out, and this is my issue, is I don't know. I haven't seen enough from Baker in his NFL career for me to be like, that guy's a franchise quarterback. Unless you think Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff are franchise quarterbacks, because I see a lot of similarities in their career trajectory. Yeah, Baker might have a little bit more arm ability than both those guys, but they're both game managers. Jimmy Garoppolo played really well yesterday. He was very efficient. He threw a lot of touchdowns. There are average quarterbacks in this league that can play well on any given Sunday. It's just a matter of when the system breaks down, when you need to go make a play, can Baker do that? I don't know if he can. I know Patrick Mahomes can. I know Dak Prescott can. I know Russell Wilson can. Kyler Murray can to a certain extent. I'll throw him in there, but Aaron Rodgers, other than yesterday, can.
Seriously.
And people are going to be like, well, those are all Hall of Famers. Yes, but Baker Mayfield is a number 1 overall pick and a Heisman winner, and he's entering his 4th year. So those are the expectations that I have of him. If people want to call him a franchise quarterback, those are franchise quarterbacks. But time to move on, Ryan, unless you have anything else to say. We've been talking about Baker for a long time.
No. This is going to be a season-long discussion, so we can continue this as the season progresses. We can talk about this as it goes on. But Baker will prove you wrong. But it's okay. We'll see how it goes.
See that.
Anyway, Trevor, Texas defense better, let us put up 50. Anyway, Trevor, I know you have one more player you want to talk about. I get it. I'll spoil it. Chandler Jones is a freak of nature. I understand. He's no Myles Garrett, but he's elite.
I'm not even going to touch on this.
Anyway, Trevor, just tell me, what do you know off the top of your head? What were Chandler Jones's numbers? Like, how many forced fumbles did he have? How many tackles for loss? Do you remember?
Chandler Jones, Ryan. Chandler Jones had a season's worth of highlights in one game. That's what I'll say. 6 individual tackles, all for loss, by the way. Wow. 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles.
Wow.
And you know what I loved about this whole thing, Ryan? My favorite thing that I saw from Chandler Jones was not during the play. It was after the play. It was the making it rain money celebration because Steve Keim, what are you doing? If anyone, the entire Arizona Cardinals fan base was the entire Arizona Cardinals fan base was ecstatic about Chandler Jones, except for Steve Keim, because you know what? He's going to have to pay this guy. And Steve Keim has had a history of letting go big name defensive players. Calais Campbell, Tyrann Mathieu. We just let go Patrick Peterson, who I guess was a little bit older in his career. But Chandler Jones is going to need to get paid. He is an elite defender. I would argue he is one of the maybe 2 or 3 best pass rushers in the entire NFL.
2 or 3 best.
I don't know who's better than him. His stats back it up. I know sacks aren't the full story, but I don't know. I just feel like he's that good.
Well, he doesn't have very many coverage sacks. Like he gets like legitimate sacks. Like you're right. Like
he beats defensive linemen or offensive linemen one-on-one. Good point.
Yes.
My point on Chandler Jones is pay the man. He actually requested a trade during training camp in late July, and my heart dropped. And I'm very glad that we were able to convince him to stay. But the longer Steve Keim doesn't extend this guy, the higher that price tag is going to go, because somebody will give him $20 million a year to be a defensive end for their team.
Trevor, I'm just going to say this. If the Arizona Cardinals don't give Chandler Jones a call midseason and say, hey, give us a number. If they don't,
seriously, Ryan.
If they don't do that, I mean, that's what we did with Myles Garrett. Like, look, these guys are game-changing players. I'm not trying to say one's better than the other. I'm not going to get into that argument right now. My only point is you pay elite defensive ends in this league. You just do, right? I mean, like almost every team. You look at even the Bucs. They might not have an elite one, but they got a bunch of guys. They got Shaq Barrett. They got Jason Pierre-Paul. They got a bunch of guys on around that front seven in that D line. Who are elite. You got Aaron Donald on the Rams. You got a bunch of guys, TJ Watt on the Steelers. You got a lot of guys on these teams, Trevor, who, are just elite pass rushers, and they always get paid, and deservedly so. These guys are game changing. If they let them walk, Trevor, I mean, I just don't know what they're doing. Like, are they poor? Is the owner out of money? Like, what's going on? So they better extend him. He should be extended at any cost. And he's
at any cost, exactly.
I mean, he's a sensational player. There's nothing else to say. I mean, the guy.
I know Ryan was watching these Cardinals highlights, cringing because he knew I was going to come on the podcast today and talk about how Chandler Jones is the second coming of Jesus or Moses or God or whatever.
Look, Trevor, my team wasn't playing in the first wave of games, so I was watching NFL Red Zone. I had the Sunday ticket. Go get it if you're a student. Only $120 for the year. Great deal. Anyway, NFL Red Zone. They kept showing.
Ryan had to turn this game off. He was getting too angry.
They kept showing, update, Titans and Cardinals. And I'm like, wait, did Julio Jones, my fantasy player, finally get a big play? And it goes Titans offense. Tannehill gets the snap. And they're like, and he gets decked again by Chandler Jones. I'm like, what's going on here? And this happened like 4 times, and he keeps dropping the ball. And I'm like, what's going on? Why does he keep fumbling the football? And it was just unbelievable, Trevor. So I mean, this guy, wow, it was just sensational. So I don't have much to say. I mean, the guy arguably single-handedly won this game for the Cardinals. I mean, I think so. You take Chandler Jones off that roster, Trevor, is that a 1-possession game? It very well could be. It really could be.
It could have been a lot closer.
5 sack, 6 tackle for loss, 2 forced fumble difference. That could be a much closer game. So, I mean, I think he single-handedly blew this team out of the water, the Tennessee Titans. So,
totally agree with you.
Congrats to him. So I don't have much else to say about that. Trevor, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but I think that about does it. I was going to give a shout out if, unless you have
give a shout out, Ryan. Stealing my little thing, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, only because I don't want to take too much time on it, but I just want to shout out Jamar Chase. People said he had people said he had the drops in the preseason. They're clowns. This guy had 110 yards and a touchdown against the Vikings. He's looking good. He's an elite receiver, or he will be one of the best prospects in the last 15, 20 years at receiver. He's going to be very good. Joe Burrow looked great. His knee looked great. Played 5 quarters of football in his first game back and looked really good. So, just wanted to shout both of them out, but specifically Jamar Chase, because some people are so dumb. They say he has the drops. It's preseason. He hasn't played in a year. Give him a break. He played well and it mattered. And, he quieted all the people. He quieted all the rumors, all the haters. So, I just want to shout him out, give him a little respect, because great game from him.
Totally agree. People love to find the smallest of criticisms about these players, and then they go out and prove them wrong in one game, and you never hear from them again. So,
yep. Yep.
I have a couple shout outs actually, Ryan, to end this podcast. One, Max Kellerman is leaving ESPN First Take. We'd love to have you on the show, buddy. Love to talk about why that is. I think his awful basketball takes caught up with him.
Probably.
He said some very interesting things. Second shout out, I want to shout out Daniil Medvedev.
Iguodala.
Iguodala. I want to shout out Daniil Medvedev for winning the men's U.S. Open tennis tournament this past weekend.
Yes.
Novak Djokovic, folks, was one match away from winning every single Grand Slam tournament in the 2021 calendar year for men's tennis. It hasn't happened, and I don't even know how long. I don't even know if it's ever happened before. And Medvedev beat him in straight sets to win the men's U.S. Open. I actually didn't even watch the match, but shout out to him. Shout out to Emma Raducanu, the English woman who won the women's U.S. Open. She was dominant. She won her title match in straight sets. My final shout out, Ryan, this is going to be a good one. You're going to like this one.
Let's hear it, Trevor.
I want to shout out the Presbyterian Blue Hose football team. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why in the world is Trevor talking about this? Ryan, I saw a TikTok the other day. Presbyterian hired a coach that predicates his game plan off of this. They never punt. Onside kick every single time. Basically, and I forgot there was a third thing too. Basically, it's a way of trying to hog the ball as much as possible. You know that really annoying friend you play in Madden who will never punt on 4th and 20? That's Presbyterian football in real life.
Oh my gosh.
Never punt. They will only onside kick. And they won their first game 84-43. And then they won their second game 68-3. Now their opponent in the second game is TBD. So I don't know who they played.
Dude.
But they have scored 84 points and 68 points in their first two games under this new head coach. Something is working there. I'm going to be following this team all year long. I don't know about you.
Trevor, that's like the craziest team I've ever heard. And is this a high school or college team? Sorry, who is it?
It's a FCS college team.
It's actually an FCS. That's unbelievable. Wow. I knew
you would like this one.
It's Trevor, for some reason this just reminds me of that team that got on ESPN that's actually like a fake school. Like remember that a couple weeks ago?
Shout out Bishop Sycamore.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like such ridiculous things. Like oh my gosh. So that's kind of wild. Like I mean, look, like some people, Trevor. This goes a little bit off the rails a little bit, but I have a friend who the Bengals went for it on the 4th and 3, their own 30-yard line. And they didn't get it. And my friend, and he goes, I think that, that's going to lose them the game. He's like, that was such a dumb play. And I'm like, look, like you're going to get 4th and 1, 4th and 2, like 75% of the time. Like, it's worth it going for it most of the time. And it's just funny.
It's analytics. It's an analytics-based decision.
He's like, no way. He's like, no way. Like that turns the tide of the game. I'm like, yeah, it does. But like, if you get it, you keep the ball, you keep possession, you most likely like it helps you cement the game. Like, and these are decisions that a lot of people don't realize are smart decisions. But hey, maybe this FCS team's on something. Maybe you just don't punt. Maybe you just don't kick the ball off. You just onside kick and go for it on every 4th down. Maybe they're onto something. But that'd be wild if that actually worked. Through a whole season. But we'll see what happens. Trevor, good shout out right there. But that about does it for me, Trevor. I don't know if you have anything else you want to shout out, but if not, we have another week of wild football coming up. Week 2 coming around here. My Cleveland
and some
Browns.
College football. We might throw that in every once in a while on the podcast as well.
That's a good call. We had some great games this past week, but Trevor, we just had a lot of NFL this week. I think that it is a good call to throw in some college football. We will be talking about the great conference that is the SEC. Last shout out, Arkansas dominated Texas. Texas, what? Win. I mean, come on, like
they're back again, I guess.
Arkansas's bottom of the barrel SEC too. I mean, hey, like this is just how good the SEC West is. Best conference you've ever seen in college. It's just the way it is. But Trevor, we'll see what happens in college and pro football, and we will be back next week with another podcast. Hope everyone enjoyed, and we'll see you then.